family visiting London, the next 3 weeks should fly by in the ZIL lanes. The Superfit and the Superfit's hangers-on able to pass through the capital on lanes uncluttered by mere mortals. Going way back, the super-rich have also enjoyed what could be called the economy ZIL lanes, finding the trapdoors and escape hatches that slice through normal tax-paying behaviour. A cut in the top rate of tax from 50p to 45 in the last budget suggested an even smoother ride for the elite. Far from it, the government insists.
We are building on the work we've already done to make life difficult for those who artificially and aggressively reduce their tax bill. These schemes damage our ability to fund public services and provide support to those who need them. They harm businesses by distorting competition, they damage public confidence, and they undermine the actions of the vast majority of taxpayers who pay more in tax as a consequence of others enjoying a free ride.
Jimmy Carr, getting out of his car, had here just been revealed to have enjoyed quite a cheap ride, if not a free one. He was advised to pay his salary into a K2 offshore trust, which saw a lower rate of tax. Legal and fully disclosed to HMRC, the Prime Minister nonetheless described it as morally wrong. The comedian apologised. Government was already taking action to stamp out avoidance with a new general anti-avoidance rule, met by fines of £1 million if flouted. On Sunday, research emerged showing £13 trillion is being held in offshore accounts around the world. Today's consultation proposes closing some more bits of road. The government believes that 14% of all unpaid income tax is due to aggressive avoidance schemes. This is behaviour not illegal, but which isn't really very sporting, to use an on-trend adjective. It is aimed at those that contrive to shortchange the exchequer. To bring this about, HMRC will get new powers over firms to discover details of wealthy clients who take advantage of schemes, publish how all their tax avoidance schemes work, not just the ones for which they're being criticised, publish warnings about tax avoidance schemes being missold, and if penalised, provide yet more information.
There are all these tax accountants across the country who live a little bit closer to the edge in terms of what's legal tax avoidance. What they're trying to do with this consultation is ask those tax advisors, who I like to think of as the mice in this scenario, to tell the cat, which is HMRC, a bit earlier on in the chase about where they're planning to run away to, and then HMRC can give an earlier opinion as to whether or not this is going to be legal or not.
Can you see why people think that these practices should just be made illegal rather than in this ambiguous territory of being morally outrageous?
Well, they do make things illegal after the fact. So HMRC spends a lot of time every year in the finance bill trying to close loopholes. What this scheme would do is give earlier notice of what the attempted events are in terms of getting around those loopholes.
The issue around bringing in law is that law, people, accountants and barristers will find ways around that law. So it will be a game of cat and mouse. As you find a way through, government then has to refine that law and close it down, and that is very expensive for Parliament. It takes a lot of time to keep trying to think about it and closing down what the next route is going to be.
One of the significant things about this morning's speech is that it's a Conservative minister making the case for a tax avoidance clampdown, not a Lib Dem. The Chancellor and Prime Minister have said plenty in this area, but ordinarily it's the Lib Dems that get to announce and use policies. The trouble is, it's the budget and the cut in the 50p rate. The Tories know that the sense they are the friends of the rich and powerful is even greater. It's they who have to be seen to be getting back as much as they've given away. Some critics think the government is just skimming the surface.
A significant percentage of the world's tax havens are actually UK overseas territories or crown dependencies. So, for example, Jersey, the Isle of Man, Cayman Islands, and these are places that we actually do have the rights to legislate for in some regards.
I think it's something done just to keep the press aware, or in the press, aware of what the government want, but in reality it does have no teeth to it.
The government wants the super-rich, including even donors and friends in the city, to think they're running out of road. Their efforts may be no match for the sat-navs of the very wealthy.
Douglas Stratton reporting now the Treasury Minister Cocker here to give his account of what might be achievable in tackling this. First of all, you talked about naming and shaming these cowboy advisors. You're welcome to go ahead. Who are they? What are the names of these people?
Well, we're not in a, I'm not in a position to run through a list of names here and now.
Why not?
We're looking, well, because that's not how the system currently works. What we're looking at doing is strengthening the disclosure of tax avoidance schemes rules so that there is more information available to HMRC at an early stage, where HMRC are able to take action if they need to change the law, or we need to change the law in order to close a loophole. We can do so at an early stage. If a scheme is ineffective, and very often they are, HMRC can take litigation action at an early stage and warn off.
But when you talked about naming and shaming, you don't really mean that then, because we have due process in this country, and you can't have a government minister or HMRC targeting people and saying we don't like the way publicly, we don't like the way you're doing your tax stuff. You do it privately, and you take them to, perhaps it ends up in a tax tribunal.
Well, where something goes to a tax tribunal and HMRC succeeds, then they're in a position to be able to put out information about these are the promoters who, for example, have promoted a scheme that doesn't work, and then next time someone is approached and say, here's this fantastic scheme, they've got the ability to look and see, here's a neighbour, this person has got a reputation for promoting dodgy schemes, and that information ought to be out.
But that's wonderful, except for one flaw, which is the backlog is 20,000 tax tribunal cases, which HMRC says at the current rate could take 38 years to clear up. That's what you could do. You could put money into getting people through tax tribunals, and then you could name and shame.
Yeah, to be fair, that story isn't right. It sounds a lot, but there are a lot of, if you like, lead cases, and when one case is dealt with, there are lots of other cases fall away. There isn't a particular problem that we need to be overly worried about, and there's a new system in place that is settling in all right. So I don't think there's a big issue with that. HMRC actually have got more resources to deal with tax avoidance and tax evasion than they've had in the past. Well, the focus is to a greater extent on avoidance and evasion. They've got the capability. They're actually having a good run in terms of litigation. A lot of these schemes are failing. HMRC having a lot of success here. What we want to do is put out more information to taxpayers so they can see if a scheme isn't working, and also that we're able to respond quickly if we need to close down.
I wanted to talk to you about tomorrow morning's front pages. I think you've already just seen the Telegraph. I'll hold up to the cameras. It is morally wrong, attributed to you, to pay tradesmen cash in hand. What do you mean by that? If the window cleaner comes round, you can't pay them 30 quid in cash?
Of course you can, and people do and will continue to do so. The specific point, and I'm not sure in truth the article has reflected that, the specific point I was making is that when a tradesman says, here's a 10%, 20% discount on your bill if you pay me cash in hand, that is facilitating the hidden economy. That's as big a problem in terms of loss to the exchequer as tax avoidance. That is meaning that revenue isn't being paid that should be paid.
And you've never done that, unlike millions of people presumably across Britain.
I've never said to a tradesman, if I pay you cash, can I get a discount? No.
Do you think any of your colleagues have done that?
I don't know, but I think if people do that, they have to do so with the recognition that means that taxes will be higher for the rest, because that hidden economy is a large part of the tax.
Another related issue is, do you think the BBC has got it wrong in paying some people through service companies? They shouldn't do it.
I think the point I would make on that is that it does depend on the specific circumstances. There are perfectly reasonable circumstances where someone may be paid through a service company. But if, as a matter of course, an employer, whether it's the BBC or anybody else, pays people who are essentially employees working full-time for them, not going off to other organisations, through service companies for the purposes of reducing national insurance contribution liability, I think that's wrong.
So you think the BBC may have got it
Well,
wrong?
I'm not in a position to comment on the specific circumstances of an individual case, but the broad principle that if you try to get round the usual tax system that applies to employees by using service companies instead so that you pay less in national insurance contributions, then that clearly is artificial taxable.
Just-
So it's wrong.
Just one final quick question, which also falls within your ambit. Minister Lord Green, who's now the Trade Minister, was in charge of HSBC when it was accused of money laundering, quite a serious offence taken up very seriously in the United States. When do you think he should give an account of what he knew when he knew it?
Well, I'm sure Lord Green will give a full